Our next speaker is Bert Maria Cueva. Bert, actually, I first met Bert here at UCLA. She was an undergraduate student and took my undergraduate course on Chicanos in the schools. And Bert finished, I believe, in the early 2000s with an undergraduate degree, and then entered our PhD program. She was one of the first students in the PhD program in women's studies here at UCLA. And she's now a PhD candidate, meaning she's writing her dissertation right now. But she's had a lot of experience with ethnic studies generally, and Chicano studies in particular, and American Indian studies as well. So I want to bring up Bert Maria Cueva to talk about her experiences.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say a really special welcome to everyone that's here today, especially all of the students, and to all the workers that just put this event together. I'm going to start out with sharing my testimonio. And for those of you that don't know, a testimonio can be defined in different ways. I define testimonio the way Rigoberta Menchú defines and uses testimonio. It's to capture and preserve events such as racism or oppression or persecution or genocide, but it's rewritten by us, and it's rewritten with human dignity and as memories that challenge injustices through a political narrative. So my testimonio follows that type of spirit and that type of genre of social justice research. I was raised by a single parent, my father, a working class Mexicano bracero. I am also the daughter of a strong, free-spirited mother of the Luiseño tribe of San Bernardino. I keep her memory in my heart and spirit. Through my studies at UCLA, I found a place that I could call home, specifically through ethnic studies. Chicano-Chicana studies as an undergraduate, and in my first master's degree in urban planning, and then later American Indian studies in my second master's degree in women's studies, and now my PhD. These fields have truly impacted the development and my development as a scholar activist, now working on completing my PhD in the Department of Women's Studies. I truly honor the works of our Chicana, American Indian, and Indígena foremothers, as their political writings have filled my spirit with resilience, with hope, and with courage to humanize the experiences of U.S. women of color that have either felt isolated, marginalized, persecuted, or were in fact pushed out of the educational pipeline. After all, U.S. women of color have historically been active in all facets of national movements, and we also are creators of knowledge. My own testimonio is a result of navigating through the educational pipeline in schools that made me feel invisible and in many cases incompetent. The educational pipeline is the title of this next segment, and I call it the choques of race, class, and gender. In elementary school, I remember classrooms being divided by race and socioeconomic status, not necessarily gender. My sixth grade teacher often used an angry tone towards students with Latino names, surnames, and Black students. In the classroom, we were also isolated in the back of the room while middle-class students worked on assignments. I knew at a very young age that certain students were treated differently, but did not understand why. My defiance started at a young age as I questioned her authority and was continuously punished for doing so. As a result, I spent lots of time in detention and on the bench at recess when all I really wanted to do was learn. In high school, I cannot recall any one teacher that stood out. In my mind, they were all the same. My counselor encouraged me to be a secretary and simply not to get pregnant. College was never suggested as an option or AP courses. While in school, I gathered with other working class Chicano students as we also divided ourselves by race throughout campus. As years passed, I recall Chicano and Chicana students disappearing one by one, and no one seemed to care. I also attended more memorial services for young Chicanos from the West Side than I care to remember. Growing up in segregated neighborhoods did not help our overall cause, as we were literally struggling to survive and graduate. These memories filled my heart with anger, as many of my friends were literally pushed out of the pipeline or never made it past their 17th birthday. In time and through healing, I replaced the anger with a strong desire to seek change through knowledge and advocacy. I now understand the politics of systematic racism and the significance of intolerance throughout the educational pipeline. I make a conscious effort now as an educator and as a social justice educator to bring these issues to my students. Years later, I transferred to UCLA from Santa Monica College and developed a passion for political theory, history, and feminism. But my feminism came from a long line of African American women, American Indian women, Chicanas, and Indígena scholars. I double majored in political science and Chicano-Chicana studies. As a machista, I developed a critical political consciousness and learned the significance of tying academia to social advocacy, as well as community activism, and the importance of teaching diversity. To date, I acknowledge that my path changed as a direct result of professors that taught in certain ethnic study programs. One is here today, Professor Danny Solorzano. Another is Sonia Salivad Hall from Tejas. Their progressive teachings literally changed my life, as I was no longer invisible, and most importantly, had the courage and the support of mentorship. In particular, a Chicana Tejana profesora taught me to arm myself with knowledge, not violence, to use this cultural knowledge in the service of advocacy and change for all of our diverse communities of color. To date, I feel fortunate to study what I love as a PhD student. My research is anchored in diverse fields of ethnic studies and grounded in Chicana feminism, critical race theory, and indigenous ways of knowing. In closing, I want to close with a poem from a Native American scholar who's also Chicana, Inés Hernández Avila, in her poem called In the Presence of Spirits, a meditation on the politics of solidarity and transformation. She affirms, it is hard to be human and deeply painful to be conscious. She believes in heart and spirit that we do what we do because we love our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Bert. The next speaker he was an undergraduate here at UCLA. He was a machista here at UCLA. He was an organizer here at UCLA and in our community. He went on to our graduate program here in the School of Education, in our teacher education program, and went on to become a teacher, high school teacher at Roosevelt High School. I know he's represented by high school. Ricardo's an amazing young scholar, educator, and I want him to share his experiences at Roosevelt, and maybe even coming to Roosevelt, on the road to Roosevelt as well. Thank you, Ricardo.
I want to start off the way I start off every single class. My first period, second period, third period, fourth period, sixth period. Can I have my students from Roosevelt please stand up, please? Don't be shy, not shy in class. And every single day we start off our class by doing the unity clap to show our solidarity, show that we're all united together. And maybe our students can lead it up. You start off. Isaías. We're still working on that last part. Well, thank you very much for giving an opportunity for myself to be here and for my students to be here. I think with that, with the unity clap, that's a very, very beautiful example of why we're here today, showing the example of how we are united, of how in really learning true U.S. history, we see the history of Chicanas, Chicanos, history of Native Americans, history of African Americans, seeing that history, seeing how that really is a part of United States history, that is a living, breathing part of history that should be told. And here today, we see everyone here coming together, moving into a movement, people coming together, and slowly but surely, we will challenge and change these laws which are going down. I want to start off, I want to tell a little bit of my personal story of how I got here, which involves my family, my community, my education, and where I'm at right now working with my students. I grew up first generation working class Chicano. In the home, I saw the examples of my history, examples of my culture. Spanish was my first language. I saw my dad working hard every single day. I saw his contributions that he did. I heard the history, his oral history, which is a history in and of itself. But in the classroom, I didn't see that. I didn't see that history being exemplified. I didn't see the positive examples of my people, of my history, of our brothers and sisters. I didn't see that in the classroom. And I went on, K through 12, going through the system, not seeing it, not seeing it, not seeing it, not seeing it, to see it. And sadly, it wasn't until I got to community college, until I got to SMC, that I started to see those first examples of my history in the curriculum. I felt empowered. I learned that the history of my dad is a history, the history of the Balaceros, the history of repatriation of Mexican Americans, the history of the uprisings in Watts. That's a history that is part of our history that needs to be told, but that wasn't told in the school. I felt like my voice wasn't there. But in community college, I found that voice through taking various courses, through taking history of African Americans, history of Latinos in the United States. I found that history, I found that voice, I found that passion. I then went on to UCLA, where I was lucky enough to major in Chicana and Chicano studies and sociology. And in there, I saw that history further told. And I think the key part of ethnic studies isn't just that it teaches us our history, but that it motivates us to go back and be involved in our communities. That it teaches us that, you know what, this is the history, but it doesn't have to be that way. We can go back and make that change and be that change in our communities, in the world, and really make this the place that it needs to be. And that's what ethnic studies really means to me as a person. It taught me that, you know what, through my involvement in Mecha, that, you know what, this is where I need to go out. I have this knowledge, I was blessed enough to get this knowledge. I need to go out and share this knowledge. And not just that I have knowledge, but that students have knowledge too. That students know things. Just because a teacher tells you that that's wrong and that's right, or maybe not right, that's wrong, doesn't mean that that student has knowledge. Students have precious, precious knowledge that needs to be shared. And imagine, for all of us here, a lot of us didn't get that passion, they didn't find that history until college. Imagine what it would be like if those students found that passion in elementary school, in middle school, in high school. That seed will be planted, and those students will be that much more powerful. Those students will be able to advocate, have that strong, even stronger voice, and go out and be empowered and give and be engaged in their communities. That's why we're here today, to plant that seed, to let that seed germinate, so that our youth can go out, learn this history, be engaged in the communities, and truly, truly, truly make that change. Thank you very much.
Yeah.